And I know that lands as, oh, you don't like Tatum. But I do feel like Ant, we talked about him, and then he shows up and you're like, okay, that may be the best player in the world. I've been hearing this for 5 years on Tatum. All the stars are out of the playoffs, or many of them, and I still think he's like the 5th or 6th best guy. Is that what you're seeing?
Well, so I would, if it's based on these playoffs, then that's the argument to having Jalen Brunson ahead of him. But also this regular season, you could argue Jalen Brunson, was probably 5th on a lot of MVP ballots. Tatum 5th on a lot of MVP ballots. Shea was better throughout the year. When I look at it, your list right here, the one guy ahead of Tatum that I would definitively have Tatum ahead of is Donovan Mitchell. Donovan was great in games 6 and 7, but really struggled games 1 through 5, and Donovan's defense leaves a great deal to be desired, so we could bump him up 1, but you also could make the argument that you have to bump Shea ahead of both of them anyway. So no, I think that's right. Like, I don't think it is a criticism of Jason Tatum to accurately rate him. And I think the accurate rating of Jason Tatum is the absolute best case scenario is he is the 5th best player in the league. That is the most generous ranking you can possibly give him. Because if we're just talking about players overall, you have to have Jokic, Luka, Giannis, Ant ahead of him at a minimum. So at a minimum, you have at best he's 5, and at worst he's 10. I think that, in my opinion, that is the fair tier he drops in. I don't think that's picking on him. I also, though, don't think, maybe I'm wrong, I don't think many people argue he's the best player in the league. I think what they are arguing is he's the best player on a team that they think is going to win the championship. And that usually carries with it a gravity, rightfully so, but that is not always the best player in the league. The last Celtics championship, 2008, the only one that's happened in the last 35 years, Kevin Garnett was the best player on that team. At no point during that season did anyone think Kevin Garnett was the best player in the world. He was, like Tatum, somewhere in that 5 to 10 range at this point in his career. And I don't think Dirk in 2011, while he was the best player in those playoffs, I don't think he was the best player in the world when they won that championship. So that's how I look at Tatum. A great player, a superstar, but his ceiling is not that of the best player in the world, and I don't think it ever has been.
So, in the 70s, when I fell in love with the NBA, there was a different team that won every year. Washington, Philadelphia, Golden State, Knicks, Blazers, Sonics. There was no dynasty. And I'm watching Denver last night, who I thought could be the Spurs. And I'm like, all right, last 5 years I've gotten Warriors, Lakers, Raptors, Bucks, Nuggets. And the T-Wolves look significantly better than Denver, and Boston is better. And I thought to myself, did we overvalue, maybe not Jokic, did we overvalue Denver? I certainly did. I thought they had a Spurs feel, and they don't look athletically even close to Minnesota. And Ant's only getting better. Jamal Murray isn't.
So if I tell you, international player wins 2 MVPs, but doesn't break through in the postseason. Then, finally, the year after he wins his 2nd MVP, finally wins a championship, is dominant from start to finish of those playoffs, and it feels like, well, who's going to stop this guy? I just told the story of Giannis, not Jokic. But now all of a sudden it feels like the stories might be a little more similar, because Giannis the next year, they looked like they were going to win the title. And then Chris Middleton gets dinged. Jason Tatum, to his credit, has the game of his life in a game 6. They lose game 7 because Boston hits 1,000,000 threes. They have not been out of the first round since. A Bucks team that looked like they were poised to be the team since they won the title has not played a single conference finals game. The Nuggets looked like the team to beat all year. And now all of a sudden are facing an 0-2 hole, just got absolutely dog-walked in their building in a must-win game when the other team's best defensive player wasn't there. and you start to ask some really tough questions. We always assume the team that just won is going to just keep winning. But to your point, it actually hasn't happened over the last half decade. And so, yeah, I'm not going to act as if the Nuggets are, some wildly flawed team, but I don't think they're going to win this series. And then you never know. When Milwaukee was up 3-2 on Boston as the defending champs, it looked like, well, they've got the best player. He's playing great. They're just going to win again. Who's going to stop them? They have not been close since then, and they made a maybe panic trade and remade their team. The other question I have about this series is this, Colin. And the people are going to say I'm being unfair, but once again, I think I'm the only fair person out there. Heavy is the head that wears the crown. Is it fair to ask, can we hold Nikola Jokic, soon to be 3-time MVP, universally accepted best player in the world, can he be held to at least as hard of a standard as we hold 39-year-old oldest player in the league, LeBron James, to? Is it fair to say that Joker needed to be better last night in a must-win game?
Yeah.
Is it fair to say that we just watched Anthony Davis score at will in round 1, and now in Joker's defense has somehow gotten worse in round 2? Every other guy who has been up to this point, LeBron, Durant, Steph, those guys, Giannis, when they all of a sudden have not shown up in the playoffs, if that has happened, they have gotten crushed. And even if they have shown up, but they lose, they have been harshly criticized. The discussion surrounding Jokic this year has been, is he going to run down Shaq, Akeem, and Larry Bird in the all-time rankings? Well, then he better be masterful over these next 10 days, because this is a really tough one to swallow right now.
It's interesting. Sometimes the media does this. They're trying to offer protection for somebody that doesn't need it. Mike Conley said, yeah, he looks like MJ to me. And I read these media people, whoa, slow down on the comps. That's not fair. Well, he's literally saying, I want to dominate KD, and did. He plays like him. He's vertical. He's aggressive. He's a good defender, maybe better than good. He is now, like Jordan, become really efficient, almost more so in the playoffs than the regular season. And I watch him, and I'm like, oh, this mid-range game, the fall-away stuff, it's like the trash talking. Yeah, it's like Dominique or Michael, but it feels more Michael than Dominique. I trust his jumper more. I don't think he needs protection. Kobe leaned into the Michael stuff. Tiger leaned into the Jack Nicklaus stuff. Like, I'm okay saying, I'm not saying he's going to be Michael aesthetically and everything, but that's got an MJ feel to it, does not?
Oh, well, listen, there's a lot of similarities, but to be fair to both players, there's a lot of differences. Obviously, Michael, 6 rings, 5 MVPs. Anthony's got a long way to go. Also, obviously, in Anthony's favor, Anthony's 22 and about to make the conference finals. At 22, Jordan was getting bounced in the Sweet 16. Just to be fair, if we're going to be an honest portrayal of the history here, Jordan didn't win his first series till he was 25 years old. Anthony Edwards already got that under his belt. So there's similarities and differences between the two. But Ant's funny because he said 6 hours before this game, stop with the Jordan comparisons. And then he literally did the Jordan shrug, a direct. And so I think Ant knows what he's doing.
Yes.
I also think that there's nothing he can do about the fact that their games he has a very similar game to young Michael, except with a far better outside shot. Now, there are a lot of ways for him to grow, and we'll see what these next steps are. But the NBA needs this from Anthony Edwards.
Yes.
I love Luka, and I think Luka might be able to. I think the Mavs, there's a world that exists where the Timberwolves-Nuggets series ends up being a war, and whoever comes out of it, the Mavericks end up beating. And I think this could be actually Luka's time to make his first NBA Finals when nobody seems really to be talking about it. I know J-Mac's been big on Luka being the best player all year, and I think that take might end up aging quite well. But as much as I love Luka, and as brilliant as Joker is offensively, right or wrong, The NBA needs one of these homegrown guys to be on that level.
Yep.
And he's the only one that I think can do it.
Yeah.
He's the only 20-something-year-old American player that I think does have best player alive ability.
Yeah, and I think the NBA style matters. It doesn't in the NFL. Brady didn't have a style. He was almost robotic at times. He was efficient. In the NBA, it's more about art. Style absolutely matters. You know, again, it doesn't really in golf, or if you're, big, strong off the tee is cool, but you got to win majors. Ant's got style and flair. And it's fun to watch. I like Luka. It's not as much fun to watch. I like Jokic a lot. It's not that fun to watch. This is dynamic fun. It's good TV. Now, here's the other thing. We were talking about, J-Mac and I were that you got to be very careful screwing with the Knicks. And I compared it a while ago, about an hour ago, to a fidget spinner. When the fidget spinner got popular in America, I was like, there's no there. That's not sustainable. There's nothing to it. The Rubik's Cube was kind of mathy. And I'm like, this can't last forever. And I said, the Knicks have become that. I'm like, Josh Hart, this is not what he is. Brunson's not MJ. This team's not this good. And you stop playing guys. I mean, like 3 Villanova guys scored 92 points. And I say to myself, this is the fidget spinner. We're all going to get, we're going to go, this is nonsense. And then I keep watching him and waiting, and it never happens. So what are the Knicks?
Yeah. I mean, a son of a gun to play, man. A team that no matter what happens over the first 45 minutes of action, the game's going to be tied with 3 minutes left, and good luck, man. I mean, that's what it is. Like NBA Twitter, great, and also does a great radio show on Sirius, Rob Perez, Worldwide Wob, who's a diehard NBA fan, but a Knicks fan through and through. He's been saying it all year. Just like playing the Knicks, welcome to hell, we'll see you at the finish line. That's how they play. Now, and what Brunson is doing is truly historic.
Yeah.
The guys with 4 straight or more 40-point playoff games, it's now Brunson, Bernard King, MJ, and Jerry West. Jerry West actually did it 6 straight times, but he lost a bunch of finals, so I guess he's disqualified from any of the conversations. He was pretty damn good if you read your history books about the league. Brunson also, though, the game before the 40-point streak started, he scored 39. He is their offense. Everyone knows it, and nobody can stop him. Now, do I think that if they get to Boston, which I think they will, that they are going to be able to deal with Boston's length and the fact that Boston has been will likely have been resting for a few days, gone through 2 easy series, and the Knicks will have just gone through hell to get there playing. I mean, Josh Hart, this playoffs is averaging 47 minutes per game. Does that feel sustainable for 4 rounds? It doesn't, but they keep winning, man. And Brunson is last night, FanDuel and DraftKings, all the sports books, had his over-under for points, Colin, going into the game. It was an even money bet on either side. He's as likely to go over as under. At 37.5. They went into a playoff game like, yeah, we expect Jalen's going to get 37-38. And the over hit. Like, it is remarkable what they're doing. And they have taken on, this is like the perfect Tibbs team. They are as fun to watch as any Knicks team of my life since really the Sprewell, Allen, Houston 99 team, which I thought was great. They ended up losing in the finals to the Spurs. I think they'll make the conference finals. It would be crazy to pick them over Boston. But man, oh man, I don't think Boston's looking forward to that matchup. I'll tell you that much.
Yeah. Plus, sometimes being rested, even in the NFL, you think bye weeks are so valuable, and you find out they're really not. If you're hot, young teams want to play the next night. So I think that Boston-New York series would be a lot feistier than I think I would take the Celtics also, in 6.
Yeah, but I mean, if it goes 6, then all of a sudden weird things can happen. And while you might be right about being rested can be overrated, I think in-game rest could be useful. Just one note to the broadcast partners of the league. When Josh Hart has not sat for a single minute in a week and is playing his ass off on both ends, can we not be like, hey, Josh, Can you give us the between quarter interview? That poor guy is hyperventilating. It's his only time to sit down, and he's like, no, we feel great about this pace. Let the guy rest for a moment.
Yes.
It's unbelievable.
Yeah, it's like Olympic coverage. Somebody wins the marathon, and the NBC's over there with the mic.
What are you doing?
From one continent to the other. Can we give him a break? Great seeing you, buddy.
Exactly
Nick Wright, first things first. Yeah, Josh Hart is, and it's just crazy because Josh Hart's like double the player he usually is. He's like a rebounding demon. He's like a 9-point-a-game forward team in the league guy. Now he's giving you 18, 19 points. His effort is, it's what the Knicks. Your favorite, by the way, you have a team.
Hi, everybody. It's me, Uncle Colin. Subscribe here to get the latest from the herd, including exclusive behind-the-scenes videos and more, wherever you may be, however you may be watching. Thanks again for making us part of your day.